Welcome back, everyone, to the Celebrating Singles podcast. I am your host, Christy, and I am excited to be able to introduce you to my dear friend today, Elise. Welcome, Elise, all the way from San Francisco.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Elise. Oh my gosh, I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. Elise, it is going to be so easy to celebrate you. There's so many different ways we could go. Today, we have had these conversations offline a bunch, but I'm looking forward to everyone else getting to know you a little bit more. And let's first kick off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell our audience a little bit about Elise, what you're up to lately, or what you're most excited about in the new year.
Gosh, so many things. So I live in the Bay Area. I've been here for quite some time. I actually will be moving to France very soon
Okay,
for
we have to talk
an
about this.
adventure. France has always just been on my heart, and ever since, I mean, even from the day that I moved into the apartment that I live in, I live actually like above a French restaurant, and so there's always been these little like glimmers of France. So that's something I'm really looking forward to in this season, is just going on an adventure. The Bay
That
Area.
is going to be quite the adventure. I'm also looking forward to that.
Yeah, so many things to, expect, but also to be surprised by. There's going to be so much that, I'm not anticipating. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. But yeah, I'm so excited to be here. What else am I supposed to share?
That's great. No, that's perfect. I mean, yeah, you're going to go move to France casual. This is
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
A great topic we often get to talk about is, as a single, it is such a beautiful opportunity to go explore the world, go meet different people, learn about different cultures, expand, which definitely, as we learn about different culture and different people groups, it helps us to learn more about ourselves and discover more of what's in us. So I'm super pumped for you. That's going to be an amazing time.
Thank you. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
excited.
Okay, so we're going to dive right in because I know you have so much to share, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you got today for us.
Go.
Talk to me a little bit about, we've talked about this before, but I think this is so interesting, and I think you have such a good perspective on this. So I'm going to first start out with kind of a specific question about, tell me about just kind of like where you've landed on like, it's okay to be unavailable if you're single. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that, because that's kind of an interesting concept, but
Yeah.
I think you've got something good to share on this. Do you want to share
Yeah.
a little bit more on that?
Let's go into it.
We're diving in.
Yes. This can be a bit like taboo, I guess. I think when we're single, it's pretty common for people to just associate that with, okay, you're single, so you're available. And for a lot of people, that can come with a great amount of peace of like, yeah, I'm single, so I'm available. And that's awesome. There are seasons in our life, though, where for whatever reason, at least for me, there's been seasons where I just haven't been able to shake that, oh man, like I'm unavailable because of this journey that I'm on. And I'd actually love to share a little bit about that, of just a
Yes,
cool story from like so many years ago.
do
Um,
it. Yes, we're
and
here.
so
Go for it.
the reason I'm like thinking of this is because, I'm comparing just in my mind, like what it looks like to be single when you serve in comparison to being in a relationship, and how you serve the other person. That's a big part of a relationship. But I just remember years ago sitting down by a tree, and was just having some quiet time. And I had this image come to my mind that I'll just never forget. And it's going to sound a little silly, but it was an image of like an egg, like popping open, and a little chick came out of it. And
Oh,
actually, in that season, again, it's just going to sound so funny, but I could not stop hearing the song "I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman" by Britney
Oh,
Spears.
yes. Yes. Okay.
It would just, like,
Absolutely.
literally, like, wherever I go, either I would hear it or I would remember it, and I'd just be like, "Man, I actually think there's something to this." And what I
Yes.
realized, because my faith is really important to me, I really felt like it was God speaking to me, "Hey, I want to take you on a journey where you're gonna go from a girl to a woman." And this
Wow.
actually specifically had to do with my voice. And I want to talk about that because sometimes when we hear someone talk about using your voice, what that looks like, you think it's just the sound that comes out of you, and the confidence. But more than that, it's also how you stand for yourself, how you stand in your
Mm.
convictions. Um, and so that really became a big thing for me, where there was actually so much dedication and focus on that. I actually felt like I really had to kind of serve that vision, and what felt like an assignment on my life for that. I mean, just so much dedication. So I think that plays into a little bit of, yeah, when you're in a season of singleness, it can be used for so much good. And part of that good is to dedicate your time and your energy to some of those like journeys of growth. Uh, and yeah,
Wow.
I can look back on that and be like, whoa, yes, there has had to be a lot of growth there, and also a lot of like
Mm,
making
mhm.
mistakes even in using my voice and when not to speak. Also overcoming fear, that's been huge, 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 huge. And so I'm just, yeah, I'm so grateful for that
Gosh.
one memory of the little chick kind of
Yes.
popping out. And I know I'm like still going on the story, but
I
um
love it though. No, it's so great. This is so fun.
yeah, so I would just say like in terms of singleness in that way, for me it's actually led to quite a bit of discovery. Just discovery about and I think whenever you have moments where you're like, "Oh man, like I am single," and "Oh man, I'm like fighting that lie of um oh gosh, like that's something that people are looking down on."
Mm.
Just remembering that there's actually such a treasure in the discoveries that you make when you can give your time and your energy into yeah, just like the assignment on your life. And for me it was really just growing into the woman that I'm still becoming.
Yes. Okay, Elise, there are so many ways that we could go with this. There is just so much goodness in just that one story. Okay, first, I want to share. I love the idea of like, okay, so some people like assume you're available when you're single, which I love. Let's break off that assumption. Like,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
because I'm single does not mean I'm just like available and available for whoever. Especially, I
Mhm.
love because by saying no to maybe like dating for like a certain time period or whatever, you
Yeah.
say yes to yourself. You say
Mhm.
yes to going on this journey with yourself. And
Yeah.
whether that's, you mentioned kind of like this faith journey, or for others, it might be a career assignment. For others, it might be, obviously
Yeah.
a season of travel or getting to go explore and live in a new country.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think too often we're talking about the things that you don't get in singleness.
Mhm.
I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
let's talk about all the things we do get in being
Yeah.
single. And
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
having that time to invest in yourself,
Mm.
truly grow into who you are meant to be. I love that you were like getting these little like nudges of like this Britney Spears song. And it can feel random, but it can feel so profound to you when you're like
Yeah.
on that kind of a journey. I know exactly. I could I can speak to like a few things too that have happened that are like, what is going on? You know?
I have
Um,
another fun story with that, but yes, keep going.
oh, no, go share away. Let's hear
Oh,
it.
I was just going to share a little blurb of I felt really compelled on my 30th birthday this past year to actually have a Britney Spears birthday party.
Yes,
And
I love it.
specifically in remembrance of that time where I just couldn't stop hearing the song,
Wow.
and I knew that was like an entrance into a new season. So it actually was really, really fun to gather people and to, well, yes, sing I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman, but like really remember, really remember in my heart, like just the depth to that and to like celebrate that with others, and even something so simple like speaking into a microphone, because what I had people do was karaoke. It took us a little bit of
Yes.
time to get there. The karaoke machine wasn't really working, but beyond that, just yeah, this celebration of using your voice, being able to speak into a microphone when that was like one of my greatest fears growing up. Like
Wow.
I was just terrified my whole life of using my voice because I didn't realize I really had one.
Wow.
Um so yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Literally, it's pretty well known, maybe you know this or not, but it's
Mhm.
above death. The number one
Mm.
fear that people have is public speaking. It's like
Hmm.
people are more afraid of that
Whoa.
than death, which is kind of crazy,
Whoa.
pretty crazy.
Whoa.
And so you're definitely not alone in that. But I have to wonder if it's actually a deep fear of like being known. Like if I take
Mhm.
on a microphone, I actually
Wow.
have to own who I am. I have to own my voice. And it's not just, you know, our voice, it's what's behind that. And what are
Yeah.
people going to think of me? Actually, I think that kind of speaks more towards people
Mm,
pleasing and like being afraid of people's opinion of me, being afraid of
yeah,
disappointing people. What are people going to think of me? You know, deep
right.
down, I for years would have said, oh, I don't care what people think of me. But actually,
Yeah,
I was making predominantly the majority of my choices based on what other people were going to think of me. It was just kind of like the thought behind the thought, right? I wanted to be
right.
successful in my career. And
Right.
I thought that was like my driving force. But actually, I was like, well, no, I kind of look down on people that aren't career oriented, if I'm really being honest. And so I actually
Yeah.
think I'm afraid of
Mm,
what people will think of me if I'm not
mm,
successful career wise, which is a total
yeah,
like, that's
yeah.
not going to be a very good thing to
Mm,
put and base your life on, which I think a lot of people discover later in life. So for
right.
anyone in your early 20s listening, like please
Yeah.
learn that sooner than I did, that like
Yes.
a good career is an amazing thing in life, but it's not the thing to focus on, or you're going to be really disappointed. Even when you are successful, it's
Yeah.
going to last all of 5 minutes and then you're going to be ready for the next high. So I digress. Let's get back to you, Elise.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
good. That's
so
good.
good. I love where you're going with this, though, because there are a few things about this story. I think
Yeah.
so many people don't give themselves that permission
Mm,
to take time away from dating, to really
mhm.
develop vision for yourself, your own life.
Yeah.
And I just think, you know, in doing a bunch of these interviews, it's so fascinating to me the
Mm,
common denominators of people who are healthy in their singleness, who are
mm,
emotionally, you know,
mm,
ready for a relationship
mm,
are honestly a lot. In fact, maybe everyone has had some kind of a time where they invested in this. And
mm.
so I love to
Totally.
hear a little bit more about your journey and with that.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me more though about this discovering your voice. You
Mm,
said it
yeah.
was overcoming fear. It was, let's go there and let's unpack that a little bit more because I know that's been such a big part of your journey.
Yeah. Well, something that just like comes to mind right now is that I asked a friend recently um if they feel like the gifts they've been given as they step into those, do their weaknesses all of a sudden feel weaker? And I asked
Okay.
this because I feel like that has happened to me in my voice. And it has been quite a humbling journey. Because when I grew up, I never had any issues with like speech or like my throat croaking or any of that. But it was actually when I started stepping into not just owning my voice, but owning like the stories that have been in my life and the things I feel convicted by. And so as I stepped into that, I felt like anytime I did need to speak up in something, there would be these moments where like my throat would just kind of constrict. And I'd be like,
Wow.
What? This has never happened to me in my life.
Wow.
This has never happened." And it's actually continued to be in my journey. And
Wow.
whenever I am able to actually lay down that fear, like literally not be consumed by my own self, that is actually where the gifts I feel like God has given me in my voice comes out. It like actually rises is
Wow.
when just that consumption of myself just goes down. And so I guess that's maybe to answer your question, that's just what the fear component has looked like is
Mhm.
just having to kind of get outside of myself a bit.
Mhm.
And yeah, that takes risk. It totally takes risk. Fear, like we've all dealt with it. Let's just be honest. Like
For sure.
we have all dealt with it. And when that consumes us, there's no worse feeling. There's no worse feeling than being in a prison. No one wants to be in a prison. We are not meant to be in a prison. We are supposed to be free. And so I just like encourage anyone out there listening, like you are supposed to be who you are, like
Mhm.
who you were made to be. Um, and I've even lately I've been trying like if I ever feel like I want to just post a story on Instagram where I'm just talking about something I'm learning. Actually yesterday I was videotaping it and I ended up videotaping two. And I was like, "You know what? I want to get more comfortable just videotaping it once just as it authentically is."
So
Um
true.
and there's just and of course there's so much grace, right? Like if you're doing it a few times too, I mean, your journey is your journey. I do that sometimes, but for me, I just want to receive and accept like my authentic self and sometimes that's the times where I might look a little messy or I might like mess up what I'm saying, but I'm not meant to dwell in that when I have those moments. And honestly, those things come up all the time for me. Like if I'm hanging out with friends, having a deep conversation or whatever it may be, there's always going to be a little moment where I'm like, "Ah, I didn't say that right, or that's not what I meant by that, or I want to go back and like fix that so they can understand." And honestly, there's just like so much beauty and just accepting it and moving on
Yeah.
and not dwelling in that place where, yeah, that's where the fear can really just like, oh, become
Well,
so
killing
constricting.
that like perfection goal.
Yeah,
It's like, wait a
yeah,
minute, where did anyone get that like perfect is the goal? It's totally
totally,
not. And I think even
totally.
in like in friendships and different relationships or in my family dynamic, like I don't ever expect my niece and nephews to be perfect. Like that's the
Yeah,
last thing that I'm thinking about.
yeah,
In fact, I love their
yeah,
journey. I love that they're on their own journey of discovery and growth. And I think it's really beautiful. And so as someone who's like, a little bit older, I look back,
yeah,
I look at their lives and I'm like, oh, it's so like the imperfections are actually really beautiful. So I
yeah,
think if we could start to see ourselves within that lens, it's like
yeah,
actually really cute when, my
yeah,
friend's little baby is learning how to walk and they fall
mhm,
over. It's so
yeah,
cute. You're like not
yes,
upset that they're
yeah,
not like running and
yeah,
jumping over hurdles yet. It's like, no,
yeah,
that's not where they're
yeah,
at. And that's
yeah,
totally okay. and we're all on a
Yeah.
different journey. And I think
Yeah.
like our culture, especially in the West, I would say like we have this like perfection idea
Mhm.
that's just really not fair to anyone. Let's be real. Like this
Right.
isn't serving
Right.
anyone. And
Right.
so killing that perfection idea is, I mean, in so many things, even in my married friends, you
Yeah.
know, I talk to so many of them and they're like, to be honest, Instagram is like informing me of what my marriage should be like. And
Mhm.
that's pretty
Mm.
unhealthy. And I'm like, no
Yeah.
kidding. Like pretty
Yeah.
unhealthy for a single too, to think about, oh, what's my husband going to be like someday? Instagram
Right.
should not be informing that, right? Like, let's be
Absolutely.
real. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
I love that like embracing the imperfection,
Yeah.
even on social media, pretty important,
Yeah.
pretty, I
Yeah.
think, good for us all to kind of embrace. And I think as our culture evolves, even in social media, and as we kind of
Mhm.
learn, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for us to be
Mm.
more authentic
Yeah.
and be honest
Absolutely.
and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. Which is honestly part of the impetus of these conversations was
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
really, as we were talking with different friends and this topic would come up a lot, and
Mm.
I'm like, gosh, who's doing something about this? Like I
Yeah.
want to have these real conversations, and I want others to be able to like, you know, have an inside scoop on our little coffee chat.
Yeah.
And these have been so good because we've been able
Mhm.
to talk about some things that I think are actually really, really
Mhm.
important for our
Yeah.
generation to embrace. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that even, you know, people younger in their 20s, and even
Mhm.
we've got some teenagers who are going on this journey. I'm like, yes, grow
Mhm.
in this now so you can make
Yes.
better decisions that
Yes.
are literally going to set up the rest of your life for success.
Yes. Yes. And also just like, I don't know if this is related. No, I feel like it's related, but just what's coming to mind is like in that specifically for the ones that are in their young 20s, that is such a natural time to start thinking about like, oh my gosh, I really desire for marriage and this is what I want it to be like. And it's very, very, so very natural for that to happen. And that's a really good thing to like be in that and to seek after what that looks like. But I would just say there's so much freedom both in that, but then also like outside of that too, because ultimately, marriage is it's really made to find like so much beauty within that and how you serve each other, but that's not like the ultimate goal. And so if you can find freedom in your own journey, like that will be applied in marriage. So yeah, I don't know. If I was
I
just
totally agree.
speaking, yeah, like if I was just speaking to myself, if I was to tell like my younger self just a little, thing
Totally.
about I guess singleness, just in that aspect of how you're thinking about um, marriage. There's just so much more beyond just this goal of marriage. That's supposed to be so beautiful, but I really think to understand that beauty, you have to understand beauty in other areas too. For me, when I got to the age 30, I was like, wait, I'm here. I'm 30 and it's okay. Like
Right.
it's okay. I told myself before I turned 30 like, okay, I'm going to maybe start getting like wrinkles in this era, but
Girl,
but
it's
like
good.
that's okay. Also there's great skincare regimens.
I know. Thank you, God.
Had to throw that in, but
I make a
I
joke. I'm
think
like, well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, I was just going to make the point of like there's so and I just can't emphasize this enough. Like there's literally so much beauty that comes with what you learn.
Yes.
And by the time you reach a certain age, that beauty goes far, far, far beyond things like,
Yes.
oh, I'm this age and maybe I don't feel like I look the same as I did when I was 18. Like the beauty of that of
Mhm.
what gets planted in your heart is so like incredibly so far beyond the other things. And I just I literally cannot emphasize that
Wow.
enough. I even remember playing tennis one day with a friend, and I was in between two people groups, actually, two groups of men. So on my left were these guys who were probably early 20s, like right out of college. You could tell, you could tell. And then on my right were these men who were, I don't know, probably like around 35. I'm just making up ages, but roughly those numbers. And I just was noticing again that idea of, okay, we've got boys and then we've got men. And it just hit me like, you know what? I bet that person on my right might be going through, that man on my right might be going through the beauty of
Mm,
development, even as a man. Like,
yeah,
he is
absolutely.
probably gaining beauty in his heart, which again goes far beyond the beauty of this, you know?
Wait, Elise, so powerful. Like, okay, let's sit here for a moment because I think this is
Yeah.
really, really good. And I haven't thought of it this way before, but it's so powerful to think about. Because I, even as we're doing like this online course and different things, people are like, I just don't know if I have the time. And I'm like, you
Mm,
don't not have the time to do this. Like, you need
yeah.
to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not just investing in yourself, like, this is investing in generations because
Yeah.
you are going to be a better
Mhm.
spouse. You are going to be a better
Mhm.
parent. You're going to be a
Yeah.
better auntie, uncle, grandparent. If you
Yeah.
take, and our course is like, you can get it done on a Saturday morning, but
Right.
like you could take the next 6 months and focus on this. I really encourage people to take like 3 months, take 6 months and
Mm.
be intentional because you can
Yes.
be, and we have another episode where we talked with my friend Matt about, like he was single, but he was never really single. He was always kind of
Mm.
looking. And his
Mhm.
sister
Yeah.
like called him out on it.
Oh, I think
And
I saw that one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really powerful because, and it, a
Yeah.
sister can call you out on something like that. But
Totally.
my brother would totally do
Mm.
this. But what I
Mm.
loved about that is I was like, wait a minute, like by you taking that time to be intentional, um, it actually, I mean, what you're talking to, Elise, it's going to pay dividends for generations. Like I think
Mm.
about the mom I would have been. I don't know if you've seen these
Mm.
commercials where they like interview these little girls and they're like, I don't like my
Mm.
legs or I don't like my arms. And then they
Mm.
interview the mom and the mom
Mm.
is like, yeah,
Ooh,
I don't like
such
my
chills.
arms. I don't like my
Whoa.
legs. And these little girls are looking up to their mom and like
Mm.
emulating what they don't like
Wow.
about their body. And
Wow.
it's crushing. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is, it takes your breath away because you're like, oh my gosh, they're watching,
Yeah.
right? Like they're
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
us. And
Yeah.
I think about where I would have been even 5 years ago as a mom or as a
Mhm.
spouse, like
Yeah.
what, my children would have experienced. And not to say like, if you got married in your 20s, like, all
Right.
right, you guys, you can go on this journey too, right? We're not like
Right. Totally.
poo-pooing
Yeah.
that. I'm just speaking to the
Absolutely.
pro of
Yeah.
having extended time to
Yeah.
go do this deep work, right? This emotional healing, this self-awareness, right? To be
Yeah.
able to develop this, like, I'm going to be a
Mhm.
completely different parent. Like
Yeah.
I now love my body compared to 10 years ago. I
Yeah.
looked better, but I was so insecure and so like on
Mm.
a different page with that all or with all of that. And like
Yeah.
how differently I will parent
Mhm.
now actually will impact, will give a completely different foundation, completely different baseline to my
Mhm.
children.
Yeah.
I have so much more patience now than I would have had 10 years
Mm.
ago. Like I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, whatever, like spilled milk, who cares?
Yeah.
Like we'll get through it, compared to
Yeah.
10 years ago, I would have been like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
And so I just think again, that's like another pro of like getting
Mhm.
married later in life is like you've had time to kind of work some of that stuff out.
Right.
And not to say again that you can't do that. You just,
Right.
are going to do that
Absolutely.
in a different way. To be
Yeah.
honest, you'll have less time, which
Yeah.
again, you make it work. But as a
Right.
single,
Right.
you got more time to figure out all
Right.
these things. So
It's
be
true.
intentional with this time. I think that's where, definitely an impetus for this project is like
Yeah.
give single people permission, invest in yourself. Take this
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
Like so many people are like, I don't know if I want to spend the money. I'm like, I mean, what
Mm.
we're offering this for is like less than one therapy session. Trust me, it's worth
Yeah.
it. Everyone is
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. So
But
good.
how much do we like, we're willing to like go spend it on a nice dinner on a date with a complete stranger,
Right.
but
Right.
we don't invest in ourselves. And it's like, actually, wait a
Mhm.
minute. Investing in yourself is almost a responsibility to do for the next generation. Like, I
Yes.
think that's pretty powerful.
And who doesn't want to experience the taste of freedom, right? Like
Yes,
you just gave a comparison of when you were younger versus now, and the quote unquote, like, yeah, if I maybe looked better at this time, but I was dying on the inside and I didn't know who I was. Again, it just doesn't even compare to like the riches of the treasure that you can gain in a time where, yes, the process of getting there can be really hard, very much so,
for sure.
but that's actually where the beauty comes in, because you're not gonna gain an understanding just by being like, "Oh, no, it actually comes with, like, seeking really deep and, like, gaining discovery," right? Like, discoveries are made in caves and, like, dark places, and the
Mhm.
treasure is more beautiful. So, it's just so worth
Yeah,
it to
that's good.
have that freedom.
Yeah, I am here for it. Yeah. Have there
Yeah.
been any tools that you feel like have helped you over the years? Obviously, it sounds like
Mhm.
what I'm hearing from you is like spending time in solitude,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like sitting alone with your thoughts, right? You're like sitting under a tree. I
Yeah.
think this is like a totally undersold, lost
Mhm.
practice in our generation.
Yeah.
Like literally, I encourage people. I'm like, you want to like get some profound discovery on what's
Mm.
going on emotionally. Get off your phone for a couple of days. Like
Oof.
people call it
Yes.
like when we don't, when you're hungry and you haven't eaten in a while, they call it like hangry. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, those are your real emotions coming out. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
actually what's underneath the surface there.
Yeah.
But I love to do that with my phone. And
Yeah.
for the first day, it's like hell. I'm
Mhm.
like, this is awful. And then the
Yeah.
second day, I like start to kind of like, okay, this is actually who Christy is. What's going
Yeah.
on? Let me actually sit with this instead of doing like 30-minute meetings back to back to back and then like rush into thing after thing in my calendar.
Yeah.
Let me actually sit alone with who I am and
Yeah.
what's going on and like deal with this. So
Yes.
I'm curious for you,
Yeah.
anything else that you feel like has worked for you over the
I
years?
mean, I just right there, like, that is exactly, what has been so helpful for me. Um, I think just stepping into a culture of like slowing down, which is so not the culture of what we live in, or I guess what we're told. So just having to take, I guess would self-control be the right word? Yeah, I guess like really just um using the self-control of like, no, I actually need to put these things away. And the temptation to pick that thing up is gonna be so like, ooh.
Yeah.
But once that goes away, it's so worth it, because at least for me, the way that like the nature of who I am, how that works is I need a lot of time. Like I need a lot of time to think about things. And honestly, that's part of the reason I'm going to France, or I guess what draws me to France is that you'll find like when people go to dinners, they just have all this endless time and they make the time. And it's like everything in the world just stops. And all of a sudden they have a 7-hour dinner. And it's like,
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
how are you supposed to know anything if you don't have the time to think about it and to know it?
Hmm.
So yeah, practically like putting my phone away has always been really, really helpful. Um, I really love to, go out in nature. Um, Also, I think doing something that I haven't done before is really helpful, or maybe something I haven't done in a
That's
long
good.
time.
Hmm.
I was sitting with a friend last night and we were talking about just like different creative elements, and how every time we enter into something creative, our minds will all of a sudden be sparked to think about something that's really important. And again, like we talked about, if, we can sometimes like miss out on an opportunity in our life. If we just did the thing that we wanted to do our way. But
Mm.
um yeah, having the time to, um, and enter in and just know what we're supposed to know or what we're supposed to remember. Yeah, for me, it just looks like creative things, going out in nature, going on
I
an
love
adventure.
it.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Wait, as you're sharing this is so interesting because I haven't put this together, but I definitely feel like I'm
Oh.
like, wait a minute. I've definitely had
Mm.
those experiences where I would maybe call it just getting out of your comfort zone, like getting out of your routine and kind of
Yeah.
just breaking through that. I had
Right.
this one moment for years. My
Mm.
friend encouraged me to do like watercolors. And I was
Ooh.
like, I'm not 5. Like, why would I do watercolors? I'm a businesswoman. Like, who has time to
Yeah.
watercolor? And
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just like, I don't know. I just didn't like the idea. But to be honest,
Yeah.
I didn't like the idea because I think it was really vulnerable. And because like
Hmm.
I'm not going to be good at this. Like, I haven't done this. And I ended up going on a trip. She had come over and we were just like chatting as I was packing. She had like stuffed her watercolors in my suitcase. So I get on my trip and I'm like, and I was traveling solo, which I also love to do, highly recommend because it's also really good processing time. And you kind of
Yes.
like get to do all of your favorite things wherever you go, which is
Yeah.
nice. Get to eat your favorite food, all the things,
Yeah.
sleep in if you want. I'm like, I love
Yeah.
traveling solo. But
Yeah.
so I find these watercolors and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this. I literally, I'm not kidding. This is like, we don't even have time for me to go there, but I just started weeping, just weeping.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
was like, I don't even know what's going on right now. Like, what's
Oh.
going on? And I just, yeah, it was like this
Mm.
moment where I was out of my comfort zone.
Mm.
I was touching something that I feel
Wow.
like was definitely like deep within me. And I realized I was believing this lie about myself because I, from a very young age, loved math. I'm a total numbers nerd. I don't know, we've never talked about this, but
Oh, we
I love
know.
numbers. I like
Oh my
dream, could eat, sleep in numbers. Like,
god. Wow.
I love me an Excel spreadsheet. That's my love
Oh,
language.
wow.
Like, I joke, like, I love
Wow.
Excel spreadsheets.
Wow.
I'm a total nerd. But for some reason, very early on, like I can remember like kindergarten art class being
Mhm.
like, if you're good at numbers, you're not going to be good at art, which is a total
Whoa.
lie. Like that's
Such a
not
lie. Such a
such a lie. And so
lie.
I'm like in this moment, I'm like
Mm.
in my 30s by now, having this moment with these watercolors and realizing I have put this off for like 30 plus years of my life because I
Yeah.
thought I would be bad at it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, I'm just going to choose to ignore that and like get
Yeah.
through this. And
Yeah.
but I realized like for 30 some years, I was believing this lie. And that
Mm.
really did actually catapult me on this journey of like, what
Yeah.
other biases do I have? What other blind spots do I have? What other lies am I believing? And that's like a big part of the online course is really helping people unpack these
Mm.
biases or these faulty lenses that
Mm.
we've taken on through life and through our experiences, through trauma, different things, and helping people unpack those faulty lenses so that whether you stay single, whether you get in a relationship, whether you get married,
Yeah.
regardless, we're all for those things. Like some people are like celebrating singles. Are you like against marriage? I'm like,
Oh, no,
no,
not at all.
go for
Uh-uh.
it.
Uh,
But I'm like, let's all get to a healthier baseline. Can we all agree? Like, we need to be at a healthier baseline to have healthy relationships. So, but it was the watercolors. I'm like just now having this revelation.
Wait,
So,
wait, that's so cool. Oh, love that.
yeah.
That's
So
that's
get out
something.
of your routine.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I've just had so many conversations lately with people who have recently discovered that there is an artist inside of them because
Ooh,
they were always told that they weren't an artist or they ended up
wow.
working in a certain profession. So they don't realize that there is a creator inside of them. It just might not be like someone else. And then that creative
Right.
thing actually unlocks the other gifting you might have, or they
Wow.
just they pair so well together, without
Yes.
even realizing it. So,
Oh,
oh, that's
totally.
so cool because that's
Yes.
a lot lately. That's awesome.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so another lesson, like explore creativity. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to look like a copy and paste model of your friends. It might look totally different for you.
Yeah.
I know for me, I love creative problem solving. Like, I
Yeah.
think at work, I get to explore solving problems in a creative way. And that's like part of how my creativity flows. But okay, we could go on and on. This has been so good, Elise. I'm so grateful. I know we have to kind of get going with our day, but
Yeah.
I love this. We should do this again, especially when you come back from France and you have those 7-hour dinners.
Oh my
You're going to
gosh.
have to come just drop some gold on everything
Come
that you
visit
learn.
me. Come visit me for a 7
Oh,
hour dinner.
okay. Actually, that's what we need to do. I am
Yes.
game. I'm
And I
in.
actually don't think I mean, okay, am I exaggerating? Maybe by an hour, but like I've actually heard from some of the neighbors that I met over there, their experiences of when they first moved to France. People would invite them over and they'd be like, "Oh no, not an this sounds bad, but like not another one. I have to sit there for like 6 hours." And it's just so funny.
It's good for us Americans to chill.
Yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It is so good.
We'll get
So
there.
good. Yeah.
Okay, Elise, thank you
Yeah.
so much for all the nuggets you dropped today. We're so
Oh,
grateful. And I know
thanks
this
for
has
having me.
meant so much to just get to hear more of your journey and your experiences. And I think it's going to give people permission to go
Mm.
explore a bunch of these things, like exploring solitude, growing into your voice, right? Having permission to go think outside the box and dream and get out of the routine. So good. So many good nuggets here. We are going to be here, you guys, every Tuesday. We will drop a new episode on celebrating singles. You can find it anywhere you consume podcasts. You can find us at celebratingsingles.com. If you want to explore these topics into greater depth and you want to do it in community, we have an online course and we want to encourage you to invest in yourself and go after that. And you can also find shorter consumable clips on Instagram at Celebrating Singles as well. So we're signing off for today, but thank you so much, Elise. It's been fun to celebrate you and celebrate all the amazing things you've learned along your journey. Thanks so much for today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right, everyone. Have an awesome day.